Welcome to the Friends in Business podcast with your hosts, Ben Wright and Jemimah Ashleigh. Ben, known as the sales strategist, and Jemimah, our resident visibility expert, are here to share their wealth of knowledge and experience with a little fun along the way. Whether you're a leader, entrepreneur, or aspiring business owner, this is the podcast where we share everything we know about business to help you succeed. Let's get started. Welcome to the Friends in Business podcast.
Welcome back to Friends in Business, where our topic for the last 5 minutes has been whether or not your feet would sell on OnlyFans.
I maintain it would. And do you know who would buy them?
I don't know, but I'm looking at mine.
Mostly dudes.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine and thinking probably not so much.
If the podcasting thing doesn't work out for us, geez, we've got another opportunity here.
Yeah, there's a backup plan. OnlyFans with two different feet. Yeah, it's you know what? It's so creepy. I need to move on. Jemimah, how's your morning been?
Good. I just jumped off the phone from a girlfriend of mine who's a liquidator. She was saying, which I'm sort of a bit blown away by this, they've had a 600% increase in inquiries for liquidation, like for getting rid of companies who are going insolvent or into much debt.
Wow.
Yeah. And that there's been a 45% increase in the amount of companies gone into liquidation than normal.
45%. So we're 1.5 times the number of, is that this year or what is it?
Since the start of the year.
So we're 9 weeks into the year. In the first 9 weeks of the year, we're going at 1.5 times run rate that we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Right. So we got a few things. There's a few things going wrong. Is this Australia or global?
Yeah, so she's Australian. She is based in Melbourne. She was just saying she's been run off her feet. She's calling to move dinner because she's so busy when I get home.
It's not a good thing when you see liquidators busy.
No, but also it really got me thinking about the situation that we're all in if we have businesses. And, you know, it feels really bad talking to your friend like she's liquidating multiple businesses from debt. And I understand COVID is still wreaking havoc on businesses and getting out of that, the debt and the issues that are being faced. And also we went through a recession that no one called a recession earlier in the year and late last year in 2024.
Yeah. I've certainly seen cash reserves across many of the businesses I work with start to reduce because their debt cycles have been so long. And what I mean by that is they've come out of COVID with ATO debts,
absolutely,
with bank debts, right, with personal debts that help them get through. And of course, a lot of businesses thrive during COVID, but these debts help them get through for those that are struggling. Which means they have very little cash reserves now. So if they have a second hit or a third hit or a fourth hit, whatever number they're up to, right?
Like the interest rate continued to go up for years.
Yeah. And when you don't have those cash reserves, it gets really hard to trade your way out of trouble.
Yes.
Because you can't hold losses in your business for a year or two and just pay for them out of previous profits, right? Your equity in your business is very marginal. So, look, that's a shame. I'm sorry to hear that.
I was disappointed about dinner also, but I think I'm a little bit more concerned probably about the businesses.
Good. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you're up, Jemimah, because it's not all about the food we eat, right? We're trying to look after all these poor businesses out there that are struggling. But look, we came close. We came very close once during the COVID pandemic, unbelievably close, and that caused huge amounts of stress. I've been there. In fact, trading while insolvent laws were abolished during COVID, which I think was helpful for a lot of businesses who were close to the edge, and certainly for us, we were close to the edge. But, gee, I'd never want to go back there again.
It is one of those things. I've just got a real anxiety breath that just happened to our listeners. Apologies. I was like, I would hate to do that. It is really interesting about how many companies really struggled during that time, but also never really found their footing again. And there's just not been that recovery that we think we had. But I do want to ask you a question, very hypothetical question. And we're going to touch some wood behind us at the same time. Hypothetically yesterday. Yesterday. So it's not going to happen because it definitely happened yesterday.
Yeah.
This all goes away. It got me thinking when I was chatting to Kate. Shout out to my liquidator friend, Kate. If this all went away, because she did do the very polite, how's everything going? Like, do you need to have a chat? Like, she's doing it with everybody. I didn't take that personal. That was not a reflection on my business.
Yeah.
We're doing pretty well. Like, I'm very aware of that.
Yeah.
And I know you're doing pretty well too. Like we are all heads above water.
Yeah.
But also you and I both know that as of yesterday, things could have gone very wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
If this all went away yesterday, hypothetically speaking, one, what would you do to rebuild?
Yeah.
And two, would you rebuild?
Yeah. So absolutely. More than happy to go through that. And I'll certainly say my business is going as well as I could ever have asked for when I started this arm of my business a few years ago. Let's do that. But then after that, let's have a chat about if we can see that the business is really starting to struggle.
Yeah,
some handbrakes you can put on, right, to help you get through that. So for me, so if I lost everything and needed to start again, right, and I'm going to take that question to mean we lose the house, we lose the business. I have no debt in my business, so certainly it's not that type of business. But what would I do? Well, I tell you what I would certainly do. A couple of things is I would sit down. Well, I'd take some time to lick my wounds.
Yeah.
Right, and I'd take. Sometimes you're not allowed much time if you were to lose everything, but let's just say that
you've got a month. Let's give you some time.
Yeah, the bank of mum and dad or something like that might help out for a period. I'd take some time just to be with my family, and then what I'd do is I'd come back and sit down and go, right, where are my key skills?
I think, I agree with you. I think there's a real reflection time that needs to happen of like, what happened? How did we get here? And I think that wound part is definitely part of that process.
Yeah. And look, for me personally, that'd be a small piece, right? I'd Band-Aid that wound. I got a couple of stitches in my hand at the moment, right? I'd Band-Aid that and get that sorted as quickly as I can.
Can you please stop falling off your bike? This is a constant discussion point at the moment.
Yes, I did have a good accident. Yeah. So first thing I'd do, and this is really important, I might actually go through my sequence of thoughts here because they're kind of related, is first thing I'd do is I'd sit down and look at what my relative superpowers. And when I say relative, what are the best skills that I have?
Yeah, great.
Right? Because if I wanted to build again, I'd want to build fast. And by the way, this goes for if I'm growing as well.
Yeah.
Is what are my superpowers, relative superpowers, that I can really leverage heavily? And for me, that is building great networks. It's building sales funnels.
Yes.
Right. It's learning a market and then delivering on that. So that's the first thing I do is I'd sit down and say, okay, relative superpowers, what are they? What do I need to make happen? The second thing that I do from there is I'd try and pick a market that I think had some really strong growth numbers behind it.
Yeah, I think like emerging markets and stuff that is currently booming would be incredible.
Yeah. So emerging markets could be one. Markets that are mature but still in the high growth phase.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Even markets that are somewhat in decline, but the reduction in players has gone past, it is more significant than the market decline, right? Which means your opportunity is potentially opening up. But really, it would be, for me, the most likely area would be an emerging market or a market that's here now and in high growth, right? Because I know that my skills generally are going to parallel towards businesses or markets where there's great opportunity. There's a reason behind that, though, because I know that the rising tide of those industries are more likely to lift businesses with that. Right? And I think it's a really important part for businesses that exist now is if you're finding things a little bit difficult, try to find the areas of your industry where there is high growth, right, that you have big opportunities to capitalise on. But for me, it'd be, what are my relative skills, right? What are the industries that are going to be experiencing high growth? The third thing I do is I'd then get out to my entire network, and I've got a good network, right? I would get out to everyone I know and say, here's what I'm good at, here's where I want to get to. Could you introduce me to one person?
Yeah, I love that.
Right? And for me, if I had to start again, if I had to go work for someone, or if I started a business as on my own, or if I started a business with someone else, or if I was a minority shareholder in a larger business, right? Any of those things in minority shares, if you haven't got anything right, you haven't earned those. That wouldn't necessarily be the product of my attention. It would be, where can I use my skills, my best skills, in markets of growth where I can maximise my impact, right? That is, and by the way, this is a question without notice, right?
I absolutely blindsided you.
So for me, they are the areas where I'd start, and then the fourth and fifth things is I'd sit down with my family and have a discussion around what the next 12 months looks like, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Right? So my wife may need to be the steady income for that period of time, or my wife, we might need to talk about, can she stay home a bit more, right?
Yeah.
Or are we splitting duties with Amali, right? What does that look like? What's the next 12 months going to be? And then that fifth one is I would put that car into fifth gear and I would fight like my life absolutely bloody well depended on it, right?
Yeah.
I would come in all guns blazing and throw so much energy at the thing that I couldn't possibly, not make progress, because I know that also is one of my skills, right? And so you line everything up, measure twice, cut once, right? You're ready to go. You know your skills. You know the markets that are growing, right? You get out and meet your networks. You're cleared with your family. You're all aligned, and then it's like, boom, fire those engines up, boom, 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 right away you go. And for me, that is how I think I'd reapproach life if I lost.
If everything. It all went downhill.
Yeah, and have to start again.
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
I would take an absolutely similar approach to that. I would definitely look at, I want to know where I went wrong. Like I would follow this exactly the same. Have the war wounds, have a little leak, have a lay down and be like, what? But I would also, for me, I want to know exactly what went wrong.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to do this, if we're going to have to go through this again, if I'm going to have another shot at this, where did we make mistakes?
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as we brought the wrong person on. This happened. This was a bad investment. This is what this looked like.
Yeah.
That coach was terrible, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Just make sure that we knew exactly what had happened.
Yeah.
And with no lens of judgment, and I think that's a really important part here, is not putting that lens of this is your fault, this was the mistake, going, all right, because it's going to be a sum of things that happened. And some of it, half of it will be luck and some will be half chance. There will be moments where you've made potentially bad decisions, but also the environment, the political climate, these things are really important to look at as well. How did we truly get here?
Yeah.
I love the skills audit. So important. What worked well? Also, what were the easy wins? I'd go a bit further. Where did we have real easy wins of making money before? Where was the thing that just felt like, because often we get caught into the business does 10 things. We know that. This is the one that just was like water. This was effortless.
Yeah.
This one made a little bit more money but was a bit more of a grind.
Yeah.
Can we just turn that one up? Being very honest about those things.
Yeah.
I love getting the family on the same page. It's going to look different. It's not going to look the same. That hitting the network saying, I now need some help.
Yeah.
I very much like you. We both have spoken about this at length off camera, but we both keep our side of the street very clean. I don't have a lot of people that don't like me. I know you don't either. And if
there's always a few.
Well, we wish you the best. But also we have left good relationships. We haven't, like, even when we've ended working relationships, none of us been negative.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's always a few, and I do mean that, but genuinely you try to end relationships, as many of your relationships as well as you possibly can, right? And look, even those, I've got some where I've had, 2 or 3 people I've had really difficult moments in my life. I certainly...
Haven't we all? My ex-husband will not have great stuff to say about me.
Well, but I think that's important, is I make a big effort not to share my dirty laundry, but anyway, keep going. And in fact, to be fair, the people that I've had trouble with as well, so far I've experienced that they, in general, haven't aired their dirty laundry as well.
And we're human. People make mistakes. Things will sometimes go awry. What's important is how we also deal with it, the decorum that happens later. Yeah. It's not always going to be beautiful and it's not always going to end well in business. You have to be very honest about that. Where the real benefit is about keeping that reputation 99% of the time. Also, there's this whole study that was done about 5-star reviews, about if you have 100 5-star reviews and I have 100 mostly 5-star reviews, but I've actually got a 4.9, when you get those, I'm actually more trustworthy. They will believe in that most times you've bought all of those. No way you've nailed it 100% of the time. There is expected that you'll make mistakes. Businesses do that. It's what we're very good at.
That's how you respond to this. I think the point you're trying to make around your network is where you leave your prior networks well, right? You have wells that you can go back to time and time again to help you, and of course you provide that same in reverse. Great. Okay, so love the piece around what would I do if I had to start again. But I think for me and the businesses I work with, the more impactful piece is what's the handbrake, right? That you're going to pull, or as my father used to say to me, and I say used to, right? He still says to me, right, is what are the parachutes that you're going to launch, right?
Yeah, I love
when you're in trouble. Because if you can launch them early and effectively, then hopefully you're not starting again. And I talk around a few areas when I'm with businesses around making sure that the handbrake goes on early enough. And number one for me is around sitting down and looking through your business, right? The first and most obvious is cut out the waste. But I think that's pretty straightforward. Right, look at all those areas where you're spending too much money, where you're wasting it, right? Get really deliberate. Go and get someone who's financially driven to sit next to you, right? And really buckle in hard. Okay, where's all the waste I can remove?
I read the other day, and I know that the average person, just to show you like the level of waste that we have, is spending around $2,000 to $3,000 a year just on subscriptions that they don't even know they have or aren't engaging with. I'm not saying all of those will be running through your business account, but I can't tell you that not all of them won't be.
Yeah, and look, if there's a business that's on a knife's edge over $2,000 or $3,000, you've got far bigger problems, right? At this, I'm talking about looking at taking 10% out of your cost base.
Yes.
Right, for most businesses, you take 10% out of your cost base, right, and you're coming back to at least square.
Yeah.
I don't know too many businesses that are running worse than that other than those that are in serious startup mode.
Yeah.
Right, and they're often funded or they should have some pool of money behind them.
Yeah.
But okay, so first thing's to look at where you're reducing waste. I think that's pretty non-controversial. Not sure how much value that adds to people, but it's the second bits and on that get really impactful. So the second piece for me is have a look at the areas that you're really good at, right, where you're making really good money for whatever service you're providing. And what I mean by good money, I mean profitable money, right? I don't mean good sales. I don't mean good necessarily good cash flow, or that helps, right? I mean where you're making strong profit.
Yeah.
Have a look at those activities and have a look how you can divert more of the business to spending time on more of the great profit-generating activities more of the time.
Yes, love that.
That can be as simple as simply going through each function within your business and saying what's the one thing you add the most value to in the business, right? If you're a sales team, what's the one area of sales where you do it? If you're the marketing team, what's the one activity that generates customers who deliver us the most money? If you're in the customer service team, right, what are the types of conversations that either stop us hemorrhaging money or enable customers to refer us business, right? And we can go through every single function at an operational level. What's the one activity we can do that delivers our jobs at the most cost-effective manner, that delivers great customer value out of it, right? So really start to zero in on the things that you're good at and pull back everything else. I talk a lot about delay, delegate, or automate.
Love it.
Right? So if we get to that point and we say, you know what, I've got all these cool things that we're great at, and here's the pool of stuff that isn't adding value, right? We then can run a lens that says we're going to delay it. So we're going to put it on hold for 12 months. I'm going to delegate it. So I'm going to delegate it out to something that costs me less money to run it, right? So it's less of an impact, right? Or I'm going to automate it, which also comes down to costing less money. So when you can run that lens over the non-value add areas of your business, I think that's when the handbrake can come on and you can start to just steer the car, right? You fishtail for a little bit, then you can start to steer it in the direction that you want.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Okay, so we've had a look at where we've got waste. We've started to have a look at what we're really, really good at. And then for me, the next piece is you've got to make a plan. It's a financial plan and an activity plan that sits down and says, right, here's all the metrics we need to tick off, weekly, monthly, right? If you're really in dire straits, it's daily, and you measure yourself against those metrics. And if you don't tick them off, you know what that next handbrake is. So if you have a sales target, I have to hit $100,000 or $5 million or $100 million in the next month, right? Doesn't matter what the number is. If you hit the target, you continue to execute plan.
Yeah.
If you don't hit the target, you say, right, well, if I'm 10% short, these are the activities that are going to stop, right? All customer entertainment. If at a small scale, right, that's an easy one. Or perhaps you need to downsize your team, right? But you've got to be really clear. If you don't hit these stage gates, boom, here's what happens. Right? And you have someone accountable, a coach or a CFO or someone else that you really trust, to sit down and go, right, here's what we're going to do as our crisis management plan to get us through this. Right, we've cut the waste, we're focusing on the areas that add value, and here's our plan that we're going to stick to. And I can tell you, I've done this numerous times, right, across my businesses, where I've had plan Bs and Cs and Ds, and like some of these plans were savage.
And I mean, this is one of the things I was just thinking when you were saying that, is that there are people who are going to be listening to this now going, I'm never going to be in this situation, or I could never get rid of Cheryl. We've had her for so long. We can't get rid of her. She's been here forever. There is a time and place here where you might have to make some really difficult decisions, and probably more importantly, you're going to have to really make some hard decisions to save everybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is going to feel absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
That you're going to have to look at who's on this lifeboat right now that maybe shouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah. It's really difficult because your first responsibility for most people is going to be to their families, right, and then to their business and the people that are within it. And they can be difficult decisions, but you're far better to make that decision for Cheryl now than you get to a point where you go into administration and Cheryl doesn't necessarily get her entitlements or, right, she's, now you can say, hey, Cheryl.
Well, now you have to get rid of Rob and Steve and Paul have got to go with her. It can be a really difficult thing to put people on the chopping board and look at this as just numbers because often the businesses that we're building aren't looking like we're trying to do the right thing by everybody, including Cheryl and Rob and Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'll probably have two other things if it's okay to add.
Please.
Around the Handbrake nice and quickly. First one is look after yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Stressful time.
Episode number 35, we spoke about mental health and mental fitness. Go back and have a listen to that, right? And know your levers there, because if you're not running well, the business won't run well. And
it's going to feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And then the last piece, just get some help. I'm not talking about go and see a psychologist necessarily, right? If that's your piece, then go and do that, because I know some people are exceptionally good at that. What I'm talking about here is get some help to steer your business in the right direction.
I've got a great liquidator friend who can instantly help you in financial distress. But when you're starting to hit those places, or if you're even thinking, I'm going to head there in the next 12 months, now's the time for intervention. Now's actually the time to go, I think I need some help.
Yeah. And that might be a mentor, that might be a coach, that might be someone that specialises in, pre-insolvency stuff. I think if you get into that point, right, you're getting late. But if you know you're in trouble, go and get some help from those around you that will steer you out, on a safer course, or I say find a safe pair of hands that will help you through. And if nothing else, right, just reach out to those around you to give you a hand.
Yeah, I think it's really important just to understand that, one, you're not alone in this scenario, but also other people have been there before. It feels very isolating. That's the thing that I think is a little bit scary. Yeah. Amazing advice, Ben. Just one more thing before we go. Unfortunately, you can no longer stay in business. What job would you take, hypothetically speaking?
Oh, okay. So right now, if I had to choose
a career
into a different industry, my natural piece would be to fall into a sales leadership role.
You can't do sales. You do that already. Totally different career.
Oh, okay. All right. Total different career. I've always loved real estate.
You'd be a great real estate agent.
I don't know if
I know it's a little bit salesy still, but you'd be great at it.
Maybe buyer's advocate.
I wouldn't want to go against you in a negotiation for sure.
That might be my fallback. Or the other one would be a mediator. Right, business mediation, something I almost
you'd be
really
great at that.
So, and for you, before we wind up?
Dentist, probably.
I like my daughter.
If I had to, I really enjoyed working in government. I actually really enjoyed that. I think politician, I think it would be pretty fun. Go out and shake some stuff up.
Yeah, I would definitely see you shaking it up.
I still maintain I'd be great on Gogglebox if I ever got that opportunity. Reality TV style it, maybe.
Well, if we ever see you there, you heard it here first. Well, that's it for this week. Friends in business, we're checking out for another 7 days. Catch you in a week, everyone. Bye for now.
I've been tried and I've been tested.
Thank you for listening to the Friends in Business podcast. This episode was brought to you by your hosts, Ben Wright and Jemimah Ashleigh, recorded in beautiful Noosa, Queensland. For more insights and resources, visit Ben at strongersalesteams.com and Jemimah at jemimahashley.com. If today's podcast has helped you, we'd be so grateful if you could leave a review and share with someone you know. This will help more people in the world benefit from the hard work we're putting in to bring you the best content we possibly can.